Hey guys, everyone's doing? It is good to see so many of you guys. We're very excited to have you here as well. Awesome. So tonight is all about the money mindset. And it's looking at your finances and looking at your mindset around money as well. And so there's going to be a little bit of everything in tonight's call. There's a bit of tactics, there's a bit of strategy, there's a bit of woo-woo as well. Get your crystals ready, ladies. Woohoo. So we've got a lot of good stuff to go through. And hopefully you guys take a little bit of everything from tonight's call. And I think it was a good idea to do this call tonight, and something that actually Ash suggested that we do. So I'll have to give Ash props for pulling it together tonight, because what we find is that as people move, particularly to this time of the year, we're getting into Christmas time, and people are already going to start to feel that bubbling financial pressure. And the irony of it is, there's a beautiful quote from Mark Twain. He says, "I've had a lot of problems in my life, some of which have actually happened." I've had a lot of problems in my life, some of which have actually happened. And I put it to you that most of this financial stress that you have is hypothetical. It's not like you actually have a bill due today and you don't have the money to pay it. It's that I think I might not have enough money in the future. And who's ever played that what if game of what if I don't have enough money before? Who's ever played that game before? And who's found that time after time, you fucking survived, you're still here. And so, yeah, maybe you were late, but you still managed to find a way to pay the bill, right? So there's certainly times as well I've had where I've been flush with money, and that feels great. I've also had times when I've had no fucking money, and that hasn't felt so good. So, when people say money doesn't buy happiness, the lack of money can certainly buy a lot of sadness, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm. Now, money itself doesn't buy you the opposite of that, but it certainly negates a lot of stuff. And I certainly feel much happier about my life when I've got more money. Now, there's obviously levels though. So I want you to understand that after a certain amount of money, it doesn't add any more value, but getting to a certain point, it gives you breathing space. And I remember, literally this time last year, I'm in America, and we're traveling around. We're doing this huge tour. We come back, and doing that tour in the United States, I lost about $100,000. And this is just before Christmas. I come back and I'm $100,000 down. Not a good place to be. And I remember being at the beginning of this year, not in a great place financially, because, we probably overstretched ourselves, and we're trying to, grow into this business. And it's like almost like taking on a mortgage that's too big for you in the hope the market's going to catch up. That's where we were at. And then obviously COVID happened, everything transformed. And funnily enough, we went from the beginning of the year being in a real struggle to now at the end of the year, more buoyant than we've ever been before. And who's ever had an experience before where you felt really sick and then you got better and you're like, fuck, I just didn't realize how sick I was or how tired I was. I was always just feeling run down, and now I feel fantastic. Well, I really feel like that for this year financially. So we went through, in growing this business and making this stuff happen, we're talking about, big financial responsibilities. How much is our payroll, baby, every week? Like 10 to 12? Yeah. So we spend about $10,000 to $12,000 a week just on staff. So just paying people. That's a lot of money. Like, I don't pay myself $10,000 to $12,000 a week. So I'm like, fuck, okay, all these people, everyone's going to get fired, right? Just get rid of all of these people, right? The week before Christmas, everyone's fired. And then the new year, everyone's rehired, right? I'm only joking, but that's actually a good idea. I'm going to write that down. So I just want you to understand, it's like, cool, that's a lot of fucking responsibility every week. And there's some companies out there that, they spend that every day on stuff, right? So we're small by comparison to most, but it's like, that's a lot of responsibility. And so when you are trying to deal with that, and you're sort of almost living in your business week to week, and some of you can identify with what that feels like, living in your life week to week. It's like everything I had was in this business. And so there'd be days when we had a bit of money, and there's days we had no money. But, over the last couple of months, we've gone from having sort of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in the company accounts to having $50,000 in the company accounts, having $100,000 in the company accounts, 150, fucking 200, 250. And honestly, when we broke through 100,000, this was really interesting, right? So in like March? Probably it was May. We broke through $100,000 in our company accounts. And we've had more than that in the accounts before, but it normally comes and goes. So it's almost like cash flow, right? So it's like you make the money, you spend the money. This is the first time in a long time where we've made money and it just stayed there. So that's been surplus trading funds. And once we had over $100,000 in the account, my whole mindset shifted around money. Like, it really did. I went from being in this place where I had to constantly keep fighting and hustling and just trying to survive to now going, I can actually breathe. And I can't communicate to you how different it feels having six figures in the accounts and I mean, that's nothing in the grand scheme of how much we spend, right? It's a couple of weeks worth of our expenses. But mentally, by comparison to just doing things week to week, to having that surplus, you just breathe. It's like, I just didn't realize how much heaviness there was. Then we ended up hitting over 200,000 earlier in the year. And I'm like, fuck, that feels even better. It's like, I'm just spitting bills. Like, I'm financially free at this point, because I thought 100 was a lot. Now I've got over 200. And then, it was really interesting. In the last 6 weeks, we've lost $100,000. So we're back down to like 170, 180. And I feel pissed that we're not at over 200 in the account. By the end of this week, certainly by the end of this month, we'll be at well over 200, may even be at 300 again. So it's just a temporary rebound, because we did our self-mastery event. We had some big expenses. We just moved into a big office, right? So there's a lot of expenses. But you get the idea. It's like, at the beginning of the year, if you said to me, Cal, you're going to have well and truly over $100,000 sitting in the account, right? Paid off all of your debts. Ash has got a fuckload of money in her personal account because we're about to buy a house, like flush with money. If you told me that was the position I was going to be in, I would have gone, oh my God, that's incredible. However, because we were a little bit better off maybe about 2 months ago in terms of cash, and now we've gone from say 250 down to 170, now I'm like, this is shit. I don't like this. Does that make sense? So I want you to understand that so quickly you will acclimatize to wherever you're at economically. And some of you are laughing at that concept of being pissed about going from a couple of $100,000 down to less than still hundreds of thousands, but it's all relative, right? And I want you to understand that inside of all of us is a financial thermometer, so to speak, and it sort of regulates our level of opulence and our level of confidence and our level of stress around money. And that money, hopefully today, will get some awareness and some clarity around what that looks like for you. And the numbers that we're talking about are irrelevant. For some of you, those are small numbers, and you're probably going, fuck, I can't believe you run a business on that little money. On some of you, they're big numbers, and you're going, fuck, I'd love to be in that position one day, right? So it's all relative, right? It's all relative. But I share this stuff with you because I want you to understand that it's going to constantly change. And so the first thing that you want to have an awareness of is that making more money is going to give you a fuckload more options. And I want you to write this down. If you have money, you have less problems. So if you have a problem and you can pay money to solve that problem, you don't have a problem. If you have a problem and you can pay someone to solve that problem, you don't have a problem. Therefore, really, the biggest problem for so many people is I just don't have money to solve my problems. Now, money's not going to solve every problem. Let's be really clear about this. There are some really big things with regards to health, right, or tragedy, where having more money is not going to make a damn bit of difference, right? Let's be clear about that. And this is what most people do when they have a negative mindset about money. They go, well, money's not going to do this. It's like, no, it's not going to do that. Of course not. It's not fucking magic, but it's going to do a lot. It's going to get 95% of the stuff in your life out of the way. And at a certain amount of money, you don't have problems, right? Like for the majority of people's lives, they don't have problems. And it's interesting because, we've got a team of people here, obviously, and there's a lot of stress that comes up for people with regards to Christmas stuff. I mean, even just organizing like a Kris Kringle in the office creates stress for people. It's around, oh, now I've got to try and find extra money that I wasn't expecting around Christmas to buy something. And it's like, that adds pressure. It's like, if you were just making more money, if you had a better understanding of finance and you were more on top of it and you were more abundant financially, and I'm not just talking about sitting in lotus pose saying there's abundance, but then living in squalor. I'm talking literally have created abundance in your life because you're tremendously valuable in the marketplace and you're getting a huge amount of money for your services. When you're really liquid, when you're really cashed up, it's a different mindset and you live in a different place. It's like you almost fly over the clouds, right? Does that make sense? Is everyone understanding what I'm sharing? So, at some point, you've got to develop a hunger, a desire to want to make as much money as fucking possible. To make as much money as fucking possible. And that doesn't mean to say you're taking money from other people. Like, this is not a zero-sum game. It's a 1 + 1 can equal 2 or 3 or 5 game, right? And ironically, the more people you hang around that are making a lot more money, the more opportunities there are to make money. Like, it's staggering. And the more people you hang around that are not making money, the more opportunities to lose money there are, right? So it's like there really is this gulf in the middle. but it starts with your mentality. And it starts with you going, you know what, I deserve to be wealthy. That's the first thing. We've got to work on the belief, the deserving part. And for a long time, you know, I struggled to take time off and to relax. I struggled to do nice things because I felt like it was meant to be hard, or I was meant to constantly be working. And that if I was enjoying myself, then I wasn't working hard. Therefore, it was all going to collapse. Right. And it's taken a long time, you know, probably the better part of the last 6 to 7 years. I reckon it's probably only been in recent times where I've really got to a place of deserving, right? Where I go, I know I work real fucking hard. I know I'm super smart. I know I can outlast most people. I'm driven. I'm relentless. I'm talented. Like, I get it. I know I've got it. So if I want to have an abundance, I have abundance. I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, I've just got to the place of going, if I really want something, I'm going to make it happen. And I'm not going to live on this delayed gratification life where, and not, by the way, I'm not talking about that from a strategic investment standpoint, but rather, I don't deserve, one day I will deserve. No, if I want it, I'm going to go and make it happen. And I'll put a goal in place to make sure it makes sense financially. But if I want something, let's go and make it happen, right? There's a lot of people that, even if they've got money, will never live in that world because they've been conditioned into lack all the time. And now I almost do it even more so because I know there's a lot of people in my life, particularly my family members, that are being conditioned into lack. They're living their whole lives in lack. Interesting. We've just got a beautiful new house a couple of months ago, beautiful rental, and it's about just shy of $1,000 a week in rent. So it's a serious amount of money. And when I shared it into the family chat on Facebook, I was like, "Hey guys, look at this new house. We've just secured the rental. It's $925 a week." And my sister replies back, "Fuck, that's a lot of money, isn't it? Geez, that's expensive." And I was like, "Well, it's not really expensive. It depends on how you view the expense." Right. And then she gets to the house and she's like, "Fuck, this house is unbelievable. I can't believe you guys live here." Yeah, no shit. If you had walked through the house, you would have understood why we spent $925 on it. Right. We probably should have paid more on it. Right. We got a good deal. So there's just part of that, right? It's like that understanding that most people will see whatever you have in your life. And if they're not living that life, they're going to be negative or cynical about it. I had a lunch with my father on the weekend, and I was talking about an investment strategy. We're looking at buying a house at the moment. And part of the strategy will allow us to be positively cash flowed. And we're probably going to get somewhere in the vicinity between 25 and sort of 52% cash on cash return. So we're going to put in about 20,000, 30,000 into the deal ourselves. And we're probably going to get the better part of that per year back every single year. So within a year, we'll have paid off our investment, and then it'll be just cash flow positive, 100% cash flow positive year on year after that, right? Great deal. Let's explain that to Dad, because that's outside of his world. There must be something wrong. There's too good to be true. This is all the things I'm cynical about. And it's like, well, why do you have to greet this with a mentality and attitude of what's wrong with the deal? Why don't we instead greet it with an attitude of maybe I don't understand the deal, and therefore it could be more valuable than I think it might be. And so you've really just got to have a thick skin to understand that most people are not going to get it. When you speak about money, you talk about money differently, you have a big difference about it. And for me, I have no space in my life for people with a lack mentality when it comes to money. And I'm really clear about that. I call people on that all the fucking time, right? Because I know how hard it is to be financially successful. Like, it takes every part of you to try and make it happen because you're fighting gravity. There's a whole system that's designed to keep you playing small and keep you broke, right? So you've got to break through that. And so the people around you've got to be on the same page. And to be fair, this is really interesting. When I talk about that thermometer, it's interesting. So Jace has obviously been with me for 7 years, and he's seen the times when we've had very little. Now we're in a position where we have a lot. But it's funny, when we still talk about making things happen, like events and stuff, recently when we're planning the event, he was getting stressed about it. And he's like, well, all this problem, we have enough money to pay for all of this stuff. Like, literally anything you want to get for the event, we can get. And he's like, oh. And it took a bit of time for him to realize, actually, we've now got the ability to do the things we've always wanted to do, and we don't have to be sort of living on the smell of an oily rag. But he was still in that mindset because that's all he'd ever known with us before. Does this make sense? And so it's really important for you to develop that sense of presence with where you're at right now. Equally important as well, if you've been flush with cash and you're going through difficult times, you've got to reset your mindset to where you are right now and sort of tighten your belt, so to speak, right? But if you were in a place of difficulty and now you're not in a place of difficulty, the easiest way to go back there is to stay there mentally, because you'll just gravitate back to that place. That's your altitude. That's your attitude. Hands, are you picking up what I'm putting down here? Cool. So we're going to go through a couple of cool things today in today's session, and hopefully give you guys an opportunity to shift your mindset and mentality. But it really just starts with understanding, what is your current mindset around money? What does money mean to you? And is it traditionally, is it a positive thing or is it a negative thing? So I'm going to share some slides with you guys, and then we'll jump in and do some Q&A as well. So hopefully you guys get some value from today, which I know you will. Okay, so let's have a look at this. First question, or first things we're going to go through is the identity around money. We're also going to go through your wealth and considering how wealthy you really are, and that might challenge quite a few of you. We're going to go through your money story, rituals and habits of millionaires, coaching tools that you might want to use, and also some recommended resources. And some of that's going to be slide-based and some of it's just going to be me riffing. So here's the first question I have with you. I have for you, not with you. Do you identify with being a millionaire or a multi-millionaire? So if I was to speak to you about your sense of wealth or your sense of self-worth, and not aspirationally, but do you believe that in your lifetime you'll be a millionaire or a multi-millionaire? Is that something that you consider, oh yeah, that's of course, or is that something, oh maybe, or no, I don't see myself as being that, like I'm not a millionaire or a multi-millionaire. Like I just want to know where your temperature is at with regards to that. So just post up and let me know. Do you see yourself as being a millionaire and a multi-millionaire? Do you feel that that's out of reach for you? Do you feel that that's just a natural, of course, that's, it's a given. Where's your mindset at with regards to that as well? So just post up and let me know in the chat box. I'm just going to open up the chat box here. Okay, cool. So a couple of you guys, let's see if I can scroll up here. Yeah. So some people are yes, absolutely. Fuck yes. Some people say no, maybe, nope, maybe, millionaire, yes. It's a bit of a mixed bag, right? Liz says yes by 35, please and thanks. Yeah, awesome, babe. Why not? I'll have 2 of those, please. Honestly, never thought it was possible from Sam. Great awareness, babe. Awesome, fantastic. I'd like to think it's possible to get to that point. Excellent. So here's the reality. You're more than likely going to be a millionaire at some point in your life. So the average full-time employee in Australia makes $81,250. They're 2017 numbers, so it has improved a bit, but obviously COVID's dropped it back a little bit. But that gives you an idea. If you include part-time and casual, the average income is $75,000. So let's just go off $75,000. And the average Australian worker works from 25 to 65. Now I know we've got people all around the world, but just hang in there with me. You get the idea and the reference point. So let's have a look at this, right? If you're looking at first and foremost $25,000 a year and you work for 40 years of your life, you will make over $1 million. If you make 50 grand a year on average for 40 years, you'll make 2 million. 75 is 3 million. 100 is 4 million. 150 is 6 million, and 200,000 is 8 million. So almost, well, I would say every single person on this call in their adult life will make at least $1 million. But more than likely 2, 3, 4, all the way up to maybe even $8 to $10 million in their lifetime. So we will be at some point. I mean, ultimately, if you make 2 million, you're a multi-millionaire. It's more than one. So, if you make more than 2 million, then you will have that. But here's the reality. Just because you make $2 million over your life doesn't mean you're a millionaire, of course. But what it does mean is it means that you made $1 million. So if you had all of that money still, or if you manage to use that money effectively to accumulate that money back, then you'd be in a position where you would have that in terms of your cash or assets or whatever it might be. Carrie, I don't know what happened there, babe. Did you just sneeze?
I did.
Yeah, you just unmuted yourself as you sneezed. So Carrie's on mute. Look, quickly, let me unmute myself so I can just sneeze for everybody. Fuck, that's funny. So anyway, just let out the money block, sister. Just let it all out. So the idea is that you will at some point be a millionaire or a multi-millionaire, at least in terms of earned income. So I want you to write this down. And this is something that my dad used to share with me. He says, son, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. And you know what the crazy thing is? If you were to take any amount of money that you earn, doesn't matter how much money you earn, but if you were to take any amount of money you earn, and from the day you started working through to the day you finished working, if you put 10% of that money aside and you invested it in an index fund, like let's say, for example, the S&P 500, by the time you would come to finish work, you would actually have more money than you earned in your entire lifetime just by allocating 10%. So this is the power of compounding interest, right? So what do I mean by that? Let's say you're on $50,000 a year and you go, cool, I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to put 10% of my income away, $5,000 a year. I'm going to just do that $5,000 a year every year, and I'm going to put that away, and I'm going to invest that in, let's say, for example, the S&P 500, an index fund, for example, growing at 10% or more. And by the time you come to retire at 65 years old, you would have made $2 million, but you would have more than $2 million in assets just sitting in that fund. So you took 90% and you lived on that. And then the final 10% gave you the cumulative 100% of your earned income at the time of your retirement. This is the power of compounded interest. So we've got to be aware of that in terms of looking at our mindset, because here's the truth, right? If you never think you'll be a millionaire, then why would you ever act like one, invest like one, think like one, and most importantly, stay one? If you ever think I'm never going to be a millionaire, well, the reality is you will be at some point in your life. You will have made more than $1 million or $2 or $3 million. But if you don't identify as being someone that'll do that, it'll come one in one hand and go out the other. Does that make sense? And here's something I want everyone to do. I want you to go to a website, if you can, for me, please. And it's called globalrichlist.com, globalrichlist.com. Now, some of you have done this with me. Some of you haven't. Oh, have I spelled that right? Oh, maybe it's no longer working. Might be, no, this is not it. There was a site called globalrichlist.com, but I think it might have crashed. Let me see if I can find it. One sec, guys. Oh, okay. The old site doesn't work anymore. Here's the new site. Okay, cool. So I'm going to post this up into the chat for everybody so you guys can jump onto it. There you go. Just click on that in the link. And basically what you do is you're going to go onto your account, and you can do this by income or you can do it by wealth. So if you know your net asset position, that's all good, but just do it based off income. Okay. So let's just go income. And for example, let's say for the purpose of this conversation that you make the average wage in Australia. So you go Australian dollars and you go $75,000. Okay, $75,000. Show my results. If you make the average income in Australia, $75,000, that puts you in the top 0.33% of the world's wealthiest people based off income. That makes you the 20 millionth wealthiest person on the planet. And there's 7.5 billion of us. So that puts it into some context. If you scroll down on this, by the way, in 1 hour, you make a total of $39. However, the average worker and labor in Zimbabwe makes 82 cents. It takes you in 47 years, what is it here? I think the site's buggy a bit at the moment, obviously. You earn $75,000 in a year, sorry, but it takes 47 years for the same person to make the same amount of money that you do in Zimbabwe. You can buy a can of Coke in under a minute, but the person in Ghana needs to work 7 hours to be able to make the same thing as well. And your monthly income could pay for the salary of 212 doctors in Kyrgyzstan. Didn't even know that was a country. Apparently there I can buy 212 doctors in a month of income. And that's at $75,000. So I want you guys to post up and let us know what percentage of the world's wealthy are you guys in. So the reality is, for the majority of people on this call, I think almost everyone on this call is in the top 85% of the world's wealthiest people. Most of you are in the top 1% of the world's wealthiest people with the amount of money you make already. But let me ask you this question. This is probably the most important question. Do you currently feel, with the way that you're showing up with regards to your own relationship of money, that you're reflecting the wealthy position that you're in? So if you were to say, okay, cool, like for Ben, right? So we got, what's Benjamin's number again? I think it was fucking ridiculous. Yeah, 0.02%, right? So you're in the top 2% of a percent, right? That's how wealthy Ben is by comparison to the rest of the world, right? No, you got the number wrong? Ah, okay. He's not that wealthy. It's not Bill Gates. I'm sure it's still very high though, right? Anyway, the idea is irrelevant of what the number is. What we want to think about is, like, let's say you're in the top 1%. If I said to you, how do you think the top 1% of the world's wealthy think about money? What do you think that they do with their money? How do you think they spend their money? What do you think their relationship is with money? What do you think they teach their kids about money? And you were to say what that is. Well, is that what you're currently doing? Because you're currently already, many of you are in that top 1% category. Some of you are in what 1% of a percent. That's how wealthy you are by comparison to the rest of the world. So the first thing that we've got to do is confront the reality that if you're poor, or if you think you're poor in this world, the world that we live in, and I say that in terms of Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, the USA, Southeast Asia, UK, you are beyond wealthy by comparison to the rest of the world that are really, really genuinely struggling. And so the mindset that we've got to have is going to completely change. And we've got to start embracing the wealth that we have. We've got to start embracing the mentality of being wealthy, because that's the only way to really start to be able to make a fundamental difference when it comes to the dollars and cents in our bank account. Does this make sense for everybody? Cool. Excellent. So what we want to be able to do as well is understand that there's a lot of languaging that gets chucked around with regards to money. But the reality is you want to really take a step back and look at what's your relationship with money. And one of the first things you got to do is increase your financial literacy. If you don't have the ability to talk about money confidently, understanding the language of money and all the different things that go into that, and you don't have to have, a degree in corporate finance, but your ability to just have a conversation about money without feeling inadequate, without feeling out of your depth, without feeling out of your league or overwhelmed, well, that's the first step. You've got to be comfortable having that conversation. And part of that is just having conversations with people about money more often. If you don't talk about a subject, it's pretty easy to feel out of your depth with it because you just don't talk about it. But if you did talk about it, and if you're willing to ask the questions of going, hey, sorry, excuse me, what does that mean exactly? And having those conversations, you pick it up pretty quickly. It's not a complicated game, but oftentimes wealthy people talk about money all the time. Poor people don't talk about money at all. And it's not actually that money's more important to one person or another. It's just that by talking about it more, you attract it more because you're focused on it more. If a poor person talked about money more often, they'd probably feel a bit of stress and pressure, but eventually they'd fix their circumstance because it'd be top of mind awareness. So we've got to have an awareness of that as well. So let's have a look at some of the things with regards to, if you look at the millionaire mindset, and these are obviously some very broad brush stroke generalizations, but hopefully it gives you some ideas. So number one, if you want to build an improved mindset around money, you've got to start to be aware of how much money you make and how much money you spend. And you've got to earn more than you spend or spend less than you earn. It's a fundamental principle of wealth creation. So it's just like being fat. If you eat more than you move, you're going to be overweight. There's no ifs or buts around it. Doesn't matter what your hormones are like. Doesn't matter, what's happened to you in your life. The reality is if you eat more than you move, you're going to gain weight. It's simple as that. If you spend more than you earn, you're going into debt because it's the only way you can do that long term, right? You're going to run out of money and you're going to have to sell assets. You're going to have to go into debt. So what we have to do is earn more than we spend. Now, that doesn't create wealth, but it just doesn't create poverty. Just want everyone to write that down. If I earn more than I spend, that doesn't create wealth. It just does not create poverty. And this is really important. If you've got money currently sitting in the bank account, it's doing nothing for you. Literally nothing. Because right now, interest rates are at almost 0%. So it would take you, I don't know how many hundreds of years to double your money by having your money in the bank. So all it's really doing when you've got your money in the bank, it's doing two things. It's making the bank rich and it's making you feel a false sense of confidence. It's making the bank rich and it's making you giving you a false sense of confidence. It's a lot of money potentially to give you a false sense of confidence. Now, if you've only got a couple of $100 in the bank, forget about what I just said, because the reality is you're not getting any fucking confidence. But if you've got a lot of money in the bank, well, then the reality is it's giving you a false sense of confidence. And you know what's crazy as well? Most people have got money in the bank and they've got money on credit cards. So they're actually paying interest on credit cards, but they want the money in the bank and they don't want to pay off the credit cards, right? Who's ever had that mindset before? Like, oh, I don't really want to pay that money off. I just want that money sitting in the account, right? Well, right now you're going backwards. So just fucking pay off the credit cards. You can use the credit card again. So like, I don't like to use my credit card. Your credit card's currently maxed. That's why you don't like to use it, because there's no money left on it. If you had money left on it, you wouldn't have any problems using it. You'd probably use it again. So it's like, there's just these things around people's mindset around money and savings that have been conditioned to us for such a long time. But the key thing is then investing the difference. That's the only way you're going to get wealthy. Just because you don't spend more than you earn doesn't mean you're going back. It just means you're not going backwards, but it doesn't mean you're going forwards. And in many cases, if you've got money just sitting in the account, you're not doing anything with it, if it's not put to use, it's actually going backwards, just going backwards very slowly, so slowly you can't see it. What's also really important when it comes to wealth creation and investing and the millionaire mindset is that, oh shit, sorry guys, is that, I'm just going to move this over here. There we go. Is that wealthy people treat time, not money, as their greatest asset. Time is the most valuable asset, not money. Because money can't be used to buy more time, but if you have more time, you can make more money. And so you've really got to maximize and understand your time. And so there's a real principle of wealth creation. I want you to write this down as well. Poor people use time to save money, and wealthy people use money to save time. So poor people use their time to save money. Wealthy people use money to save time. So it's like if you're going to get a renovation done, get somebody in to paint your house, a poor person's going to say, oh, don't worry, I'll do it myself and I'll save a few dollars. A wealthy person goes, I'll pay a professional to do it so I get the time back. Right? That's really important. It's really important. And until you start treating time valuably, you'll never shift. And we're going to have a look at that a bit today as well. They read, they learn, and they invest in themselves. And I want you to understand they invest in themselves in two ways. One, they invest in professional skills, because the fastest and most important thing, right? Like, here's the reality. If you have less than $100,000 to invest into something, if you got less than $100,000 to invest into something, the only thing that you should be spending money on is you, on yourself. Investing in your own education and your own growth. It's the only thing you should spend money on. Why? Because $100,000 is fuck all money in the grand scheme of things, right? Like $100,000 is barely enough money to get into a house these days. And so you'd be better off forgetting about that, forgetting about stocks and shares and property, and instead spending all that money on developing professional skills, because that will give you a much greater return on investment than anything else will. Now, yes, it means, okay, cool, I'm going to have to earn money and I'm going to be stuck in the rat race. Yes, you will, but you're going to be on a much bigger, fucking fatter, more lucrative hamster wheel. And most of us are going to have to work for our entire lives. So you may as well make as much money as you possibly can during that period of time. Like if you've got an extra qualification and that made you an extra 10 grand over a 40-year working life, that's $400,000 more. Okay, that extra 10 grand otherwise invested is going to do very little for you. So I want you to understand just that principle. It's like developing and investing in yourself, but don't invest in skills that are not monetizable. So doing programs to make yourself feel good is all good. Investing in reading books and doing courses around that is excellent. You should do that for personal growth, but that's a hobby. You should also be investing in professional skills and training and development that's going to increase your ability to make money. So if you're running a business, obviously that's not just learning how to do your job, but also how to run that business. That's very, very important, right? So they spend money to save time, while the poor spend time to save money. They surround themselves with other wealthy people. You've really got to audit your inner circle and really surround yourself with people that are wealthier than you are, or certainly at a very similar level, right? You don't want to be surrounding yourself with people that are lower on the spectrum than you are. Now, obviously, eventually you understand at a macro level, there's always going to be people that are making less money than you. That's natural. That's going to be part of that. And there's people that grow and expand and contract differently with regards to money. But there's certainly, you've got to surround yourself at the very least with people with a very strong, positive money mindset. And I want you to understand the antidote to the airy fairy abundance, just manifest money bullshit is a phenomenal fucking work ethic. So don't talk to me about manifesting abundance if you're not prepared to work 7 days a week for your passions and making your dreams become a reality. Yesterday, I did a 13-hour day. Today, I'm probably going to do another 13-hour day. On Saturday, from 7 in the morning through till 6 p.m. at night, I've got back-to-back, literally my whole calendar is booked of sales calls. So it's like, if you're not prepared to work your ass off, then the reality is you're never going to be able to make money, because money comes to people that are willing to go after and be able to make it happen, right? So this is really important. You want to also make sure you put your priorities in your schedule first and others come second. You got to make sure that you've got yourself looked after, right? You've got to put your own oxygen mask on first. So that means before you give advice around money, get your own money sorted out. But it also means as well, before you start looking at expanding, make sure you're clear on where your money's going, and on top of it, there's very few people that I know that are wealthy that are ignorant around their money. very few people. There's a couple, but most nearly everybody that I speak to that's good with money, that understands money, that's very wealthy. When you talk to them about their positions, they know exactly what the details are. They know their numbers, and it's not complicated stuff, but they understand the basics. They know how much money they're getting paid. They know how much money they want to make. They understand where their assets are at. They understand where their liabilities are at. They understand their debt levels. They understand the data because the data is important. They have clear financial goals and they check in. It's meant to say and monitor, not monster them regularly. But yeah, sure, monster your goals. Monster your goals regularly. They do that. They know that they're 100% responsible for everything in their life, and they have no time for bitching, gossiping, complaining, or finger pointing. This is a really important one, right? So we've talked to you guys about extreme ownership. I've mentioned that before, but one of the things that blew me away. So have you ever been to Broome before? Has anyone been to Broome? No? Okay, who knows where Broome is though? North of Western Australia? Yeah, most people know. So most people will know of Broome. They'll know of a place called Cable Beach. It's like the most popular beach. It's the famous beach where you ride the camels in Broome, right? Pretty popular place. So there's a resort in Broome called the Cable Beach Club. It's the #1 resort in Broome. It's sold out. Ash and I went to Broome a couple of months ago. Baby, when did we go to Broome? September? Yeah, August, September. We went in September and August, and Cable Beach Club was sold out all the way through to Christmas and into the new year. So it's normally sold out 6 months in advance, very expensive to stay there for what you actually get. And I don't use the word expensive lightly, but it's not really value for money, but it's value for Broome. And so they just charge whatever the fuck they want because they know there's not a lot out there. The guy that created and founded Cable Beach was a wealthy businessman from the UK that moved to WA, fell in love with the Kimberleys, right, in that whole region in the northwest of Australia, and decided he wanted to build a resort, a luxury resort, Cable Beach Club in Broome, right? He invested a huge amount of money to do it, but there wasn't enough demand in the local area to sustain the business, right? There wasn't enough tourism coming to Broome, and there wasn't enough of demand from local markets for the major airlines at that time, Qantas and Ansett Airlines, to fly wealthy people from the east coast of Australia over to Broome for holidays, right? So it wasn't something that happened that often. He believed that much in the project of what he was creating. So this was 30 years ago, 1990, he set it up. He believed in the project that much that he underwrote the airlines. So he said to Ansett, I'm going to underwrite your costs. So if you lose money on a flight, I'll cover the cost to fly people from Melbourne and Sydney all the way to Broome, knowing that they could go to any of the hotels in Broome, but trusting that they would come to his hotel. That's how committed he was to being able to create abundance. Now, fast forward 30 years later, it's still the #1 resort and it's sold out 6 months in advance. That's the mentality and mindset that you've got to have, which is like, you know what? I'm not just going to rely on my business succeeding or my wealth being achieved because of me. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to make that happen. And I'm not encouraging you to go and underwrite an airline to be successful, but I want you to understand that's the difference between people that make it and don't. It's just self-evident, right? If you look at any successful person, it's just them. They find a way to survive. They find a way to make things happen. So it's very, very important. They focus on action and results. They don't slow down. One of my dearest friends, Simon Rawani, runs the 83rd fastest growing company in Australia. In 4 years, they went from $0 to $7 million a year, like phenomenal growth. He has a principle, I want you to write it down. When the world's collapsing around you, expand, don't contract. When the world's collapsing around you, expand, don't contract. And so most people, when they're under financial pressure and stress, they contract. What you need to do is expand, because otherwise you'll never grow financially, okay? There are also as well, a lot of people have a negative association. A lot of people have a unrealistic positive association with risk. And so they go, oh, you got to risk money or you play big to win big. And they've got almost like a gambler's mentality. And when you look at a lot of very wealthy, successful people, they're very risk averse. They're always thinking about what's my downside? And how do I look at the worst case scenario, WCS? How do I look at the worst case scenario and make sure I'm protected? But of course, I go into the deal or I go into this project with abundant energy and focus on the outcome I want. But I also know in the back of my head that if I need an exit plan, I've certainly got one. Does that make sense for everybody? Yeah, hopefully you picked up a couple of things here as well. A couple of daily habits that some of you guys will be doing and some of you guys won't be. Carrie says, how does what you're saying around 13 hours a day fit into the thing you share around time management around 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. days? Yeah, so most of the time, Carrie, I work 8 till 4. That's most of the time. There are certain days and there's certain weeks, in fact, where I've just got to do a lot more. And we're in a really big upgrade phase. We've got all the people finishing the Art of Coaching program. So I'm doing a lot of quality calls for upgrades for people as part of that. We've also just finished the self-mastery program. So there's a lot of follow-up I've got to do as part of that as well. So I'm just doing a lot of service to clients. And so there's going to be times where I work longer days, but there's also going to be times when I take an entire week off, right? So it's all ebb and flow. Most of the time, if it's not one of these big weeks, I'm not doing as much of that, but I'm prepared to go to that place if I need to be able to make it happen. So you can certainly be more effective than you don't have to work longer. It's not always the case of working longer is better, but certainly it's like most people don't want to work longer, but they're also not working harder when they're in their days either, right? So it's like just the mentality of I'm willing to do whatever fuck it takes. So millionaire mindset, daily habits, focus and review their time. Time is so important. You've heard the idea, time is money. You want to make sure you lock that in, get really clear on where am I spending my time, right? And in fact, before I go through any of this other stuff, let me just pause for a second here. Here's what I want you guys to do. And yes, I love what I do, so the days are worthwhile, right? I fucking love doing a 13-hour day. I froth on that. I love being the first person through the door and the last person out the door. There's like a sadistic quality about who I am. I love that. That is, every aspect of that I love. It's not healthy, but I do love it. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down two numbers. How much money you made this year, how much money you want to make next year. How much money did you make this year? How much money do you want to make next year? Okay. And I know the year's not over, so just guess. It's going to be okay. If you've made two halves of fuck all from January to November, don't write down 600,000 this year, okay? Because you're not going to make that in December, okay? Awesome. So, guys, I want everyone to post up, and then here's what I want you to do. I want you to take that amount of money, and I just want you to do a couple of things, right? If you work a normal full-time job, okay? So let's say you work the average of a 40-hour work week, and let's just, for the argument's sake, if you work more than that, let's say you work 60 hours, for example, just go full-time 40 hours a week, right? So just do that on average. If you're part-time, do it on, say, 20, 25 hours a week, okay? And even if you are like in between jobs or doing casual, just do it on average of 25 hours a week, okay? So it's either you do it at 40 or you do it at, say, 20, 25, whatever's up to you. But what I want you to do is I want you to take the amount of money you make. I want you to divide that number by 52 and then divide that number again by 40. If you're full-time, or divide that number by, say, 20, 25. Effectively, I want you to figure out what's your hourly rate this year, okay? So however much money you're making right now, take that number, divide it by 52, divide it again by 40, and you'll get your hourly rate. I want you to post that number up. I also then want you to post up as well the same number for next year. So if like, for example, let's say, just for argument's sake, Kristen's do 220 this year and she wants to do 350 next year. 220 will work out at about, what's that? I don't know how much that is an hour, so I can't do the mental math, but it's obviously going to be more next year, right? So there'll be a gap, there'll be a divide. For Merrill, it's going to literally be double, right? Because he's doing 125 to 250, yeah? So take the amount of money that you've got, guys. So whatever that goal is, divide that number that you're currently making by 52, that's the weeks, then divide it by 40 if you work full-time. And that'll give you a rough hourly rate, or divided by 20 if you work part-time. So we want to get clear on the two numbers. How much am I currently worth, and how much do I want to be worth next year? And here's the rule, right? Oh, fantastic. So Kirsty's got $27.88 at the moment, but next year she wants to be worth $48.07. Love it. Zelko, $22.11 now. He wants to be at $44.22 next year, so doubling. Excellent. Sam's at -6 to 43. Kristen's at 105 to 168. Brady is 36 to 106. Excellent. So here's the thing, right? Now everyone's aware of this, right? There's no hiding the reality that if you want to make more money, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to do things that are different to what you were doing before, because otherwise you're going to just keep making the same money. So the rule is, when you look at your time, and you should start acting like that right now. If I look at my time, and let's say, for example, I go for Rihanna, she's $22.49 right now, but she wants to be at least $100 an hour. Great. Go through your calendar, babe. What did you do today? What did you do yesterday? What did you do on Monday? Let's go through the calendar of all the things that you've done, and which of those things were worth $100 an hour. Because if you didn't do anything that was worth $100 an hour, you're never going to make fucking $100 an hour. If they're all the things that you're doing currently, you're only worth $22.50. Well, guess what you're going to make next year? $22.50. Because if you don't elevate your standards in terms of the activities that you do, the only solution that you have is to work harder. And so, for example, for Vriana, that's $22.49. That means that, okay, cool. If you're working 40 hours a week, your only other strategy, unless you do different things, is to do more than 4 times the work. And most of us don't have the ability just to do 4 times the work. It's unrealistic for you to work 120 hours. Actually, no, it'll be 160 hours. I don't know how many hours are in a week. Is it 176 hours in a week? Is that right? So effectively, you can sleep for 2 hours a day. That's stupid. Of course, that's never going to happen. But that's the reality. 164 hours. So you can literally sleep for half an hour a day. And all of the other time you've got to be working, right? So that's not going to work. So we've got to do different things. And sometimes, by the way, if you look at the logical levels of change in the NLP programs, sometimes you can't do behaviors that you don't have the capabilities for. So you've got to then invest in the skill sets to increase your capabilities so you can do different and unique things. Hands up, are you following this conversation? Yeah. So it's like, okay, cool. If literally nothing I'm doing right now is worth $100 an hour, or $96 an hour, or whatever it might be, if I don't have any skills that are worth that, well, then I've got to go and find those skills. I've got to go and find those skills. And there's a way to do that. Obviously, so many different ways to do that. Formal, informal mentorship, training programs, YouTube courses, fucking Udemy, going back to university, going to TAFE, picking up a qualification, doing a night course. Like there's so many options, right? But if we don't change what we're doing, we're going to continue to get the same results. So that's super important. So I come back to this principle with regards to time. It's like, cool, focus on reviewing your time. You got to be aware of that, because here's what happened, right? Most people have September-itis. What do I mean by that? In January, they go, this year is going to be different financially. I'm going to make all this money. And then nothing different happens in January. Nothing different happens in February. Nothing different happens in March. And then April, they go, you know what? Don't worry. By the time I get to September, it'll all be worked out. And then September comes around and they're, fuck, this year was a write-off. I'll start it all over again next year. And so say, you've got to do different things. You've got to learn different things. And you've got to start understanding as well. This would be a fascinating exercise. Go and find somebody that you know that's very wealthy, and then ask them, hey, can I interview you? Can I interview you about how do you spend your time? What are the things that you spend? And I promise you, you'll find with people that are very wealthy, people that are worth a lot of money, people that have a great mindset, they focus on what's known as revenue generating activities. They make sure they spend their time doing things that are actually productive and adding value. The things that are not productive and not adding value, they don't spend time doing them. And so they don't necessarily have to work harder. They just do different things. They spend a lot of time sharing, connecting, and giving back, right? I truly believe that the more abundant you are, the more you give, the more you receive. I also believe that the more you help people get what they want, the more chances you've got to get what you want as well. They spend a lot of time thinking and problem solving. Bill Gates has a principle, which is he takes and allocates time in his calendar to think. A lot of people, particularly a lot of people that struggle with time and money, are always in a mindset which is that there's never enough of either. And so reality is you don't have enough structure around either. So if you don't structure your time and your money, you're going to be in trouble. They spend time moving and sweating. Really important to make sure you're physically active, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have the energy to execute on your ideas or the health to see your wealth come to fruition, you're never going to get there, right? Wealth and money is a long-term game. They're appreciating. They appreciate life. They enjoy being present and loving. They talk about money and opportunities all the time, and they've got a yes and mentality. Yes, it's a great idea, and how do you make it even better? And they review their money, their business, and their investments. Right. So this is some really important habits and principles. Right. Some really important habits and principles. Now, I dramatically underestimated. I dramatically underestimated how much content I wanted to go through today and how much time I had available to do it. I actually have a 4 o'clock training call for my launch clients in business, which is in a minute from now. So I didn't expect this to go for that long, but I got into a role and I looked up at the time. So here's what we're going to do. Next week, I'm going to do part 2. Okay? Because I only got probably 5 or 10% into my presentation. So next week, we're going to go through part 2. But here's what I want to do as an activity, and I'll be late for my launch call. Where's my bag? Chica, do you know my bag is? Oh, Ash, you're not listening to me. Nothing's new there, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what I want you guys to do. This is going to change your fucking life, by the way. I want you to get some money. And if you can, do it with $100 bill. Ben's like, yeah, I'll take it. There you go, mate. Take it, please. All right. I want you to get some money, and I want you to do a meditation process. And it's not really a meditation process. It's more of a visualization conversation exercise. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit, and if you can do it with either I would say a Benjamin, American dollar. Do it with an American 100 or an Australian 100 or a $50 bill. Right? Do it with one of the two. And I want you to take it. It has to be physical, but I want you to take it, and you can't really see this. I'm going to just drop this down here, right? Oh, you can't really fucking see it. Too high. Anyway, I want you to take it, and I want you to put it in front of you on a table or effectively on a chair in front of you, right? And I want you to have a conversation with money. And this is about as woo as it's going to get. But I promise you, if you commit to doing this exercise, it's going to transform your mindset around cash. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to have you and money. And people call me, everyone wants it. I bring money out for the first time out of my wallet, and everyone starts calling. Everyone wants a bit, right? So you're going to sit there, and I like me sitting in front of money, and I'm going to have a conversation with money. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about, if I was sitting here, and let's imagine that this was a real guy, right? That this person's a real legit person. Or if you prefer to speak to a woman, she's on the back, right? I'm speaking to this person. What are the things that I want to say to money? What is my mindset around money? If I'm having a conversation with money, like let's say it's a long lost friend or maybe an acquaintance, maybe you're not that fond of it as well. It's like, what are your frustrations and your disappointments? Where's there been times when, you appreciate it? If you're having this conversation, what would you like to ask money? If you were having that dialogue, what are the things you'd like to know about money that you've never taken the time to ask? And I just want you to have a conversation. It's like, if you could actually speak to money, the consciousness of money, what would you say to it? What would you say? And I just want you to pour it all out. And there might be a bit of hard truths. There might be a bit of love. There might be a bit of laughter. There might be complete ignorance. You might go, you know what, to be honest, I'm sitting down having this conversation with you, but I don't know anything fucking about you. Like, I have no idea. I don't know anything about this, right? And so I feel a bit inadequate. I feel like completely I'm underprepared. Or maybe I feel pissed at you because why are you never around when I want you to? In fact, even getting the money out of the bank account was difficult for me because I have so little of you, right? I just want you to explore that conversation. And you can do it in your own space out loud, or you can just have the conversation in your head. But I would encourage you to write it down. So as you go and have the conversation and maybe write down your thoughts and just free flow write. And I would probably encourage you to do it as what's known as free flow writing. So you set yourself a time of maybe 3 minutes. And for 3 minutes, you just write. You just look at money and you just see what comes up for you and you just write. And you come up with a whole idea. Then I want you to take it. I want you to put money on a chair. And then I want you to sit on the chair. So you put money on the chair, and then you sit on the chair. And now as money, you talk to yourself. And you say, hey, as money, there's a few things that we need to talk about. Because you say I'm never here, but I keep fucking showing up, and you keep using me and lending me out to your friends like I'm a fucking prostitute. Or you keep whinging and complaining about how I've never done anything for you, but fucking look at all the things that we've got together because of me, and I got no gratitude. Right? Or every time you think about me and the energy about me is negative and it's heavy. And I'm not negative and I'm not heavy. And it's like, you wouldn't say the things that you say about me to anybody else in your life. So why do you say it about me? Right? Or maybe it's like, hey, I think we're a great team. And if you get your shit together and we start playing better, I think we can do some great stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun here. Let's go to Vegas. Like, let's see what money wants to say to you. Yeah? Does that make sense? Liz, money's not telling you to go to Vegas. I just want to be clear about that. Okay. Just want to clear that up. So I want you to have this conversation with money. And I promise you, some of you are going to get a bitch slap from money. You're going to get a bitch slap. And it's one of the most powerful exercises that you can do to get a really good understanding in psyche. And there's some deep shit that comes up. Some deep shit that comes up for people. And the more you commit to it, the more you're going to get from it. So I want you to do that between now and next week when I see you guys for the call. Then we're going to jump into the call next week as well. We've got a whole heap of stuff to go through as well. Who got some good stuff from today's session? Sorry, I completely underestimated the time frame, but hey, it wouldn't be a wild call if that wasn't the case. Awesome, Dream Team. Go and kick some goals. Be bold, have fun, make an impact. Go make some money, baby. I'll see you on the wild side. Peace out.